Joining us now to discuss what's happening here, Ryan Mauro joins us. He's an investigative researcher in counter-extremism and international security at the Capital Research Center. Ryan, good to have you with us, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so, the left has routinely rioted, unfortunately, when Republican presidents are sworn in, famously in 2017, causing a lot of damage in D.C. What do we know right now about what to expect Monday?
I would say you're going to see a repeat of the attempted property damage and fighting with police that you saw when Bibi Netanyahu came to the United States to address Congress. It's the same groups that are involved. It's the same city. And we know from their recent patterns of behavior that that's kind of what they do. Now, the bigger story here, though, is not just that these are crazy people. It's that this really is a network of a bunch of different organizations. There's two coalitions that overlap that are involved in this, so it's not just We Fight Back. But We Fight Back, at the core of it, is very closely linked, you can say almost operates on behalf of, the Chinese government, the Chinese Communist Party. They get their funding through a person in China, and the Singham Network, Singham is his name, and the Singham Network is like what he funds, and he funds all of these nonprofits that engage in this type of activity. And so there's a common thread between the members of We Fight Back and the Chinese Communist Party, and they're all interlinked, and they're pro-Iran, pro-Hamas, pro-everything bad.
But, okay, so insofar as there's any coherent ideology that animates these groups, as I understand it, one of them is, the Answer Coalition, the Act Now to Stop War and End Racism. These types of people, aren't they arguing that they want peace in the Middle East? Isn't that one of their arguments? And so why would they be protesting President Trump, who's already producing results on that front without even being president?
Oh, they love words like peace and anti-war. They just don't like actually pursuing it.
Yeah.
So if you look at their statements, like the Answer Coalition, they signed an endorsement of Iran and Hamas and all the terrorists that they support and sided with Russia over Ukraine. And the Answer Coalition, again, that's at the center of the We Fight Back coalition. They operate essentially as part of another organization called Progress Unity Fund, and that's funded by the guy in China, the billionaire over there. So that's at the center of the We Fight Back coalition. And then the other coalition, the January 20th coalition, is just a rebranding of another network that I investigated for Capital Research Center last year.
Yes.
Where I found about 162 groups involved that support terrorism or openly call themselves Marxist, communist, or anarchist.
So in other words, these groups don't actually have any sort of like unified ideology that makes sense, except for they're agents of chaos designed to cause trouble in the United States.
To them, that is the ideology, though. So it's like different brands of sedition, and sedition is sort of the ideology. The idea is that through chaos and overthrowing the U.S. government, beauty emerges, and whether that's communism, Marxism, anarchism, that can all be discussed later. It's this general idea that you accelerate. That's accelerationism is a term for this.
Yes.
That you actually accelerate tensions internally so that you paralyze the government and it starts falling apart. And then the true forces that represent the people truly will then come to power, and then you'll have paradise and all that. And they believe the U.S. is an illegitimate country because we occupy Native American land. So it's a combination of these communist, Marxist, anarchist narratives. And then there's overlaps even with white nationalist narratives, even though they claim to hate them. But when you look at how they operate and things that they say, they're really quite similar.
Yeah, it's senseless and destructive. That's the commonality there. All right, so what do you expect to see on Monday then? Do you expect kind of the routine rioting / property damage, hectoring people who are trying to peacefully attend the inauguration? We're looking at 250,000 ticketed guests to attend the inauguration on Monday. What are they going to encounter as they're going through the city?
There's certainly going to be a lot of security, but I mean, if we've learned anything in the past few days is that sometimes not the brightest minds are making the decisions involving security. I mean, when you have a radical imam who is loyal to the Iranian regime that is trying to assassinate Trump,
yeah,
getting in the perimeter of Trump to speak at his inauguration, like, you can't rule out anything happening. Like, that's the most boneheaded thing I've ever heard of in terms of preparing security. So, yeah, there'll be lots of police, and every conceivable preparation and investment in resources will be there. But if essentially an agent of assassins, aspiring assassins of Trump, get invited to come near him at the inauguration, then I don't have much faith that this is going to be a flawless security process.
You're concerned about it. I'm worried about it too. I want to make sure everything goes off without a hitch. But of course, the left, especially, is always looking to introduce these hitches. You talk about your research into China. How much more meddlesome do you anticipate the Chinese Communist Party becoming as President Trump arrives?
It'll be more and more because it works, and they're learning more and more from the technology as AI advances. Then they'll be able to engage in 5G warfare, this asymmetric warfare that, again, it's not just a method, but it's like part of their ideology. They believe that this is not just how they win as a strategy, but as communists, they have to engage in this type of stuff. Now they're coming up against Trump, who is a real threat. So I would say they're going to double down on it because really the only conceivable strategy that they can muster is to cause internal chaos in the U.S. and do things like one of the strategies them and the Russians and the Iranians do is they flood social media with so much misinformation of varying severity so that people just reflexively believe what they want to believe and just like they don't bother thinking anymore. And I saw that article and I was like, man, that is a smart strategy. So it's not just trying to convince people of your position. It's just to overwhelm them so they don't think.
Yeah. It's wild. All right, well, we'll keep our eyes open, head on a swivel, going into Inauguration Day. Ryan Mauro with the Capital Research Center. Sir, thank you very much for your time today.